Hello and welcome to this devotional. The title of this devotional is Let Me Remind You. This week, following on from Easter, last Sunday we thought about the resurrection of Jesus. And I thought this week, following on from Easter, that it might be really helpful to look at Paul's longest teaching on the resurrection from 1 Corinthians chapter 15. I'm only going to touch on it briefly, not all of it. It's not going to be a deep study. This is a devotional, so please do feel free, obviously, in your own time to look at these things more deeply. So as I've said, the title of today's message is Let Me Remind You. When I first became a Christian, long time ago now, 1991, I remember thinking, Jesus has died for my sins to save me. I kind of could clearly get that. And I believed he rose from the dead, but I couldn't really understand why it was important that he rose from death. And this week I wanted to talk about why it's important that he rose from death. So let's begin. 1 Corinthians 15 verse 1. Now, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you of the gospel I preached to you, which you received and on which you have taken your stand. Paul is wanting to remind them of the gospel. He wants them to stand on it. And part of that gospel is the death and resurrection of Jesus. Let me read you another verse which speaks of being reminded. Philippians 3:1. Further, my brothers and sisters, rejoice in the Lord. It's no trouble for me to write the same things to you again. It's a safeguard for you. Paul is saying, I'm reminding you, I'm writing the same things. It's a safeguard. We need to be constantly reminded. Paul knows that the Corinthians are having trouble believing in the resurrection, some of them. He knows that there are false teachers coming amongst them who are teaching that there is no resurrection. We have many people, many churches, and many people who call themselves Christians who would say that the resurrection didn't really happen. It's more of a story that helps us in our lives to think about Jesus didn't really rise from the dead, but it's just a helpful story. Now, the Bible clearly presents it as a narrative, as an historical account. It's not a parable. It's a historical moment. Jesus rose from the dead, and there are demonic powers at work that would want us to stop being reminded and to not take our stand on the resurrection. So we read from Ephesians 6:10 to 11, finally be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Why? Put on the full armour of God. Why? So that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. Take your stand. Keep believing the truth, particularly the truth of the gospel, that Jesus died for us, for our sin, and that he rose from death, showing that he was not a liar, not a lunatic, well-meaning but a martyr. No, he said he would die, he said he would rise. He has indeed died. He has risen for our sin. It was a victory. So we need to be reminded of these things. As Christians, we need to constantly be reminded. I hope that we've got a plan in some way of constantly reading through the Bible. Well, let me hasten to add, there is no new Bible. You just keep reading over, and we keep preaching, and we keep teaching around the same things. And why, as human beings, we have what I believe is a God-given desire to create traditions. So we have things like Easter. Easter's a helpful tradition. It's not commanded in the Bible that we celebrate Easter, but it's not wrong, is it, to focus on the death and resurrection of Jesus at a particular time. Other things, a wedding anniversary, again, it's not a biblical command. Husbands, celebrate the anniversary, buy some flowers, etc., be thoughtful. It's a helpful thing, I'm not going to forget. I know I'm married. Birthdays, again, they're not a biblical idea, and some Christians don't celebrate birthdays, but I think it's great to focus specially on someone and talk about them and to celebrate all that God has made them to be. So why has God given us this capacity and desire for traditions? Well, it's because we can only focus on one thing at a time. And at special times, it's helpful to focus on something in particular. So the resurrection and the death and resurrection of Jesus, it's really helpful to focus on it in a special way. We do that every time we take communion, but it's really helpful. All last week before Easter and this week, we're focusing on what the Bible teaches about the death and resurrection of Jesus. And I've got no doubt that you've heard about the resurrection before. There's nothing in these devotionals that I'm going to be saying that's new. It's a reminder to you, so you can take your stand on it. We can know stuff, so you know about the resurrection, but let me ask you this question. How is the resurrection affecting your thinking, affecting your singing, affecting your vision for life, affecting your use of money and gifts and how you parent and every aspect of life? How is the resurrection affecting you right now? You may know about it, but are you taking your stand on it so that it's affecting you? And I really hope this week you will join me in these devotionals, in really allowing the Holy Spirit to bring home to us the importance of the resurrection for us. So how can we respond? The Holy Spirit has given us His Word to remind us of the things that we need to know, upon which we can then take our stand. And one of the massive things He teaches about is the resurrection, isn't it? So why not, in response to this, go away and read the first account from Matthew of the resurrection, from Matthew 28, 1 to 20. Read it prayerfully, asking the Holy Spirit to deeply remind you of the meaning of the resurrection for you. So God bless you today as you go into this day. May the resurrection fill your heart and fill your mind.